Many of you might know Andrew Jackson only as our 7th President of the United States, but today we're here with Professor Hussey, who has a different story to tell.
Well, good evening and welcome to A Different Story to Tell. I can think of no better person to open up our inaugural, I should say, since we're talking about presidents, episode than Lucky 7, Andy Jackson. He was called Old Hickory because he was as strong as a hickory tree. And I guess he would whip you like a hickory. But what you may not realize is that Old Hickory was quite a partier. The first time that he was elected, because he did 2 terms, his first term he threw such a raucous party that the White House was shut down for a couple of days with all the partying. They brought in beer and wine and ale and mead. And just out in whiskey, of course. I mean, he was our first frontier president. So, how Obama's talking about hope and change. Well, Jackson was the first big change in American democracy from the planter aristocracy to the frontier. And they said when he was elected, King Mob ruled. And, well, that's what happened. The whiskey, the beer, all of these were piled into the White House. And Jackson just invited all of his friends in to party. And windows were broken, furniture was smashed, walls were busted up, and Jackson couldn't get down to running the business of the country. So he slipped out the window, hired some folks to bring in what little alcohol was left in Washington to the front lawn, and cajoled his friends to come out and partake the wine. When they left, he ran back in through the window, barred the door, and went about cleaning, renovating, and running the country. That's just one for Andy Jackson. He's also known for starting the Trail of Tears with the Native Americans. If you're ever in Cherokee, they do a fantastic production called Unto These Hills, which deals with the relocation to Oklahoma. Terrible thing. He said there's only good Indian was a dead Indian. Nice guy. Speaking of nice guy, Andy Jackson also spent most of his time dueling on the White House lawn, and if you think dueling is somebody shooting with pistols at each other, that's exactly what it was. Jackson and anyone that had angered him would wind up dueling in the back. He did it before he became president too. One famous dueling story is he was against some quick draw artist who he knew he couldn't beat. So Jackson let him get the first shot, and when it hit him in the shoulder, Jackson shook it off like a BB gun shot and shot the guy in the head and won. They left the bullet in there until he died because, well, he's Jackson. Interestingly enough, an assassin tried to kill Jackson. Why you'd want to kill someone who is an accomplished duelist with pistols is anyone's guess, but the guy's guns misfired, and according to Crack.com, that happened because the guns themselves were afraid of Jackson. It's kind of hard to argue with that. And Jackson spent the time until the constables arrived beating this guy senseless because that's Jackson's idea of fun. One last little Jackson story before I leave you guys to your Valentine's Day fun. Jackson, before he left the White House, South Carolina, or maybe it was North Carolina, both states claim him as a resident, sent him a giant block of cheese for his last big party before he left. And he took out an ad in the local newspaper asking people in Washington to come and help him eat his cheese, figuring, well, we came in with a bash, let's go out with a bash. And for 2 weeks, Jackson's friends and people in the White House, people around the White House, people in all of Washington as far away as Alexandria, came in and ate his giant block of cheese, so much that the whole Capitol smelled like moldy cheese. And that went on until Jackson slipped away yet again and allowed the newest president, Martin Van Buren, to come in and stuck him with a pretty hefty cleaning bill because apparently Lindbergh leaves him alone. So thank you for joining in with another story to tell, and we'll be back next week with a take on another president or some other historical fun facts. So if you have anything you want us to cover, please write in.